Welcome to this week's Harness Racing Alumni Show. I'm Freddie Hudson, and I'm here today with Trade Martin and Bob Marks. This week's Harness Racing Alumni Show is brought to you by Hunterton Farm, selling their consignments at the Harrisburg sale November 3rd through the 7th. For more information, visit huntertonfarm.com. The Meadowlands Racetrack, visit playmeadowlands.com. Also, we are looking for sponsors for the upcoming October release of the Bill O'Donnell Tribute. Sponsorships available. Visit ustrots.com.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show with your hosts, Freddie Hudson and Trade Martin.
Joining us today is our good friend, Donald Tiger, the owner of the famous Pacing champion, Charlie May. Don, welcome back to the Harness Racing Alumni Show.
Freddie, great to be with you and Bob on a beautiful morning, fall morning. A lot of excitement in the air. Breeders' Crown eliminations, Breeders' Crown finals next few weeks. So a lot of things to be excited about. Just recently had some yearling sales. Still got the big one coming up at Harrisburg still. So hope springs eternal. A lot of people looking for new animals for next year and new excitement. That's a lot of the reason why people get out of bed in the horse racing game. So year-end honors and new breeds and new horses. So exciting times.
Well, Don, I'm going to start off with, is there any update on the Charlie May litigation?
It's at a standstill. It's still out there. The council has sent some notes to the New Jersey Racing Commission and the courts, and obviously everybody just wants this to slowly die and go away, but it's going to stay active one way or the other. I mean, again, I go back to that ruling of California with the thoroughbred industry. It took, I think, 6 or 7 years to adjudicate the justified disqualification in the Santa Anita Derby. So it's going to take some time still. You know, I think we're still a year or 2 years away, but the fight continues. We'll see what happens. I always like to stress, you know, in a court of law with a judge, an independent judge, he looked at all the facts of the case and ruled in our favor. It's just the New Jersey Commission still just doesn't want to acknowledge that ruling. And so it'll remain. There's also been a lot of factors that have come up post I guess you could say post-trial, post-adjudication that are material facts that need to be reintroduced that help our case as well. So there's more and exciting stuff that's out there. Again, I don't know how long it's going to take, but we keep fighting it for sure. Yeah.
Are you at liberty to speak about those things?
I don't really think so, because I don't think that it's, you know, the one thing I've done in the past year or so, I've just let kind of counsel handle everything on that side. I mean, the one thing I think we can't talk about is John Tomasello. He was the director of racing for New Jersey Racing Commission. He's been removed from his post, and he's been indicted, implicated in some of the wiretaps and some of the stuff that goes back to the March of 2020. Huge horse racing scandal indictments. I think we're 20 or 25 people-ish were indicted and convicted, I believe, the good majority, I think, if not all of them. So he was tied into that in different various roles. So I think that's an important factor. And how exactly that comes into play, well, if he was the director of racing, control of that stuff. So there's factors that go along with that, because obviously he was advising counsel Eric Reed, that was the opposition in my case. He was the lead counsel, and Mr. Reed's been on record of stating some things that Tomasello directed him directly to do, and had given him information which were false information that was part of the hearing. So, you know, I don't know. That's probably the only catnip I can give you as far as that goes. I mean, okay. We'll keep fighting it. I mean, it's a good case, and we'll keep fighting it, but it continues to lead into a lot of the problems that we talk about in racing. Is just no accountability. And you know, I had dinner the other day with a guy that's a military guy that's in security that works for one of the main phone companies. So it's interesting. You'll see this on television a lot. There'll be someone that's convicted of a crime, or someone that murdered someone. They use the cell phone towers to locate people, you know, because your cell phone will hit certain towers, and that's what he does. He's big into that. It's really high tech. He's a friend. We had dinner the other day, and we're talking. I'm always fascinated about that part of law. And so he gave me a really great story. He said there's a judge in one of his jurisdictions. He's a real tough guy, and he's real, kind of a guy that doesn't no holds barred in his courtroom. Well, we all know we live in a cell phone era. Everyone has one. I mean, where they're hooked on our hips. But one of the rules in his courtroom is if your cell phone rings during a hearing or during proceedings, you're obviously automatically in contempt of court, and the gavel comes down and you get hit with a $500 fine. Well, in his courtroom, prosecutors, if their cell phone rang, yes. Does he stop the trial? Yes. Contempt of court, $500 fine. It's happened to the defense attorneys. It's happened to witnesses. It's happened to everybody. I mean, even people in the crowd that are watching, as soon as a cell phone rings, immediately a gavel comes down, $500 fine. So guess what happened one day?
Well, I see Charlie May won his last start out. What are the plans for Charlie May?
So let's finish this story real quick, though. So, like, the judge, his phone rings in the courtroom. And when his phone rings, he looks around at everybody, and it's a moment of quiet. Everybody doesn't know. He pulls out the gavel, hits it, $500 fine. I'm in contempt of court. So, like, I think that's interesting to notate. In the real world, there's accountability for everybody. And, even the judge finds himself. So I think that's part of the first premise when you talk about harness racing. We don't policy ourselves, in the right way. But Charlie May finished up the year great this year. I was astonished to hear this fact. He went the fastest half mile at a half-mile track in the history of harness racing so far. I did not realize that. He went to the half in 53 at Delaware, and I guess no horse in a half-mile track went that fast to the half. But he kept going. He set the track record and stakes record, 49 flat. It was a nice effort. Small field. It was only a field of 3, but he did go off second choice. There was a horse in there that had been running pretty well, and we drew inside of him. And big effort. Horse ran good that day, and with that, we gave him a little bit of vacation. He got about 3-4 weeks in the field. He's gained about 60 pounds, and he is back. He just came back on Saturday, back to the races, or back to the track. So he'll train down for a couple months, get his feet back under him, and be back to the races for sure.
Hey, well, you were racing out in Scioto. What did you think of the miracle 4 miles out there of 147 and below?
Yeah, that, Danny actually is a personal friend of mine. He drove Charlie May to his first win ever in the Next Generation. I love Dan Noble. He's a fantastic driver, good horseman. But with that said, I mean, that obviously that day at Scioto, that was an anomaly kind of effort. And, that drew some ire. Now, I'm also a due process guy, so I'm not exactly sure what happens. I mean, the one thing that most of us can realize, almost like sunshine laws in the real world, there's certain things that happen in our sport where we take pause and we kind of know that something's amiss here. So what is amiss, I don't know. I just know the horse that lowered the all-age track record and who's now the track record holder at Scioto, 46-4. I know a week or two before that he was 10 by multiple lengths up in Canada. And then his race after that effort, I believe he was 8th, 9th, or 10th as well. So, like, to sandwich that in the middle, obviously it's a questionable effort. But, I mean, I don't know. I'm not on the inside, but it appears in the pillow talk that they removed him from maybe a slight ban for a year or something, him and Christie from Scioto, and I think Miami Valley and Dayton, I think, are following along with that. I don't know. Again, I'm strictly going on what, other folks may have said, and there's been nothing, no rulings, no fast rulings or anything like that. But he did show up at Northfield Park, and I'm happy for Danny that he's at a place to race. And, man, can he drive. I've always said this guy's one of the top drivers in the world. He's a horse whisperer. There's certain guys like Walter Case, Dan Noble, Dexter Dunn that can just make certain horses really go, and he's certainly somebody that can. But, again, it begs the question, like with Northfield, and it goes back to what I just talked about with, like, the judge find himself in that courtroom for what he did on it. at some point in time, you have to sit around and say, okay, well, if we are banning someone, it should be reciprocity pretty much across the board. So, like, it's just odd that Northfield is, has let him race there. And again, I'm happy for him. I'm glad. I'm just talking more of like a macro thing. Like, this is one example of 50. Like, it just never seems like the true adjudication ever takes place. And I go back to another guy, like, there's a guy, Trevor Bauer. Do you know who the name Trevor Bauer is, Freddie?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Okay, so Trevor Bauer is a baseball pitcher. He was signed by the Dodgers. One could easily surmise, like the Dodgers and Yankees, very big operations, very respectable operations, a lot of history, a lot of great players, great teams, great success stories. Well, this guy pitched for him, and I would tell you he's probably one of the top 5 pitchers in baseball 2-3 years ago when he had an incident. One of his incidents didn't take place on the field, so it took place off the field. So he got himself some sexual perversions, and he got himself in a little pinch off the grid. And I guess one could argue, well, hey, wasn't at work? What's the problem? But, the conduct policy in Major League Baseball, most of your Major League sports, football, basketball, is integrity issues. And, the guy had some charges filed against him, and some of the evidence that came out, he had some domestic issues. So guess what they did? Major League Baseball suspended him. Guess what the Dodgers did? The Dodgers released him. So it just goes to say, too, is like if you're going to want to adjudicate stuff, you've got to do it across the board. You've got to have people in your own house handling that the same way. So, again, and he got in. Great to see him racing at Northfield. But, again, if Northfield, maybe the real problem is here is nobody wants to follow along and do stuff. And that's kind of sad in the bigger scheme, but it tells you the problem. But, Northfield's had problems in the past. I had these discussions and actually turned those guys into the Ohio Racing Commission for, basically fixing races. And part of why would they fix races? Well, they have invitational races, and they invite multiple contestants from the same stable in the race. And Stevie Wonder knows if you have multiple horses in the same race, those trainers and drivers are going to work together. They're on the same payroll. So and the fact that they don't couple them in the wagering. If they coupled them in the wagering, I guess you could find a way to pallet it. But when they're uncoupled and one goes to the lead and the other one sits back and then that other one circles around, it's just not fair to racing. And Dave Bianconi and Northfield Park have done that. I mentioned that years ago. You think they would change that process? No, they do not change it. It's the same thing. And, it's shame on them for, being the outlier, and it questions the integrity. I mean, so if I'm on the board of directors of MGM casinos, I mean, I would have to look into the conduct up there of the race secretary and the way they're putting races together, because they're defrauding the public. And one of the things, I go back to that word, because when the judge originally ruled in the Charlie May case, one of the big things for him, he wasn't as much worried about me, but what he did state is he said the people of New Jersey and the residents of his state were affected by the takedown of Charlie May that day, because they wager on the races, and we expect those races to be adjudicated properly and fair. And that was his big bone of contention. So, like, people are wagering at Northfield Park on these races where they have multiple entries. People are wagering, and he's not protecting the state, the people that live in the state of Ohio that wager on those races, and even more so the people that wager them all over the U.S. I mean, they have wagering. I think they have a decent handle at Northfield. So, again, it's the product, and it's a shame. Jason Roth, the race secretary at Cider Downs, I love him. I think he's a fantastic guy. And, I don't agree with him all the time. We've butted heads at times. But, myself and Jason talked about this, and he said, in an invitational race, you can't invite multiple trainers from the same outfit to race in the race. It's just not fair. It's not fair to the contestants. It's not fair to the wagering public. So he gets it, but other people don't. And that's just, there's no uniformity of rules. And, part of the issue here is like in Major League sports, respectable sports, the owners and stuff, they get it. They understand, like, hey, my guy messed up. He's going to get fined. He's going to get suspended. It's just the nature of the beast, And yeah, I hate to dig up an old wound, but we go back to the March of 2020 indictments, and most of those indictments focused around Seth Fishman. He was one of the main kingpins that had been supplying illegal drugs, and a lot of people bought those drugs. And, there's a list that's been on the internet and different places that have stated these are the purchasers. But a lot of those people that...
Don, you went scratchy there.
Yeah, I'm turning this off. There you go. Sorry about that. My earpiece kicked back on. A lot of the people... You hear me good now?
Yep.
Yeah, so a lot of the people that... had purchased those drugs on those lists, and I'm not talking about one-offs. I'm talking about people that have bought for numerous periods of time. Like, were they tried and convicted? No. I did hear rumblings from my attorney, I think, that said they probably could have indicted hundreds of people, but they had to pick the main players, and I think they used probably some of the other people that had purchased as people to testify against them. I get all that, but it goes back to A Few Good Men. Like in A Few Good Men, and for people that don't know the movie, there was two military guys, two Marines, that conducted a Code Red, which was basically a way of internally hazing another soldier who was a substandard soldier. No, they did that, and then they went to trial because when they did, kind of rough the guy up, he actually died of asphyxiation. So the guy dies. They're on trial for murder. And they find out that the Colonel Jessup, ordered the Code Red. He was the one that ordered it. So once they found that out, Colonel Jessup got in trouble, and they let the two guys off for murder charges. But they both still got dishonorably discharged, and they still got kicked out of the Marine Corps. So it goes to the same thing. I mean, the guys on that list that have bought drugs, and I mean, the commission still haven't done anything. There's a few here or there that are doing some stuff, and I think there's a new one now where I think one of the guys recently is in the news. I think he's getting kicked out of a lot of places from this, but it shouldn't be that hard. Like the commission's, all the information's been there. That's what the crazy part is like my attorney had this information years ago. All you got to do is get in a Pacer account, and you got the USTA, you got the racing commissions that look the other way. And personally, I think the reason they look the other way is because it indicts and it causes harm for some of their contestants and trainers. And it's just sad, again, because that's part of the problem is, like, there's no accountability, no integrity, and
they should have fixed this problem years ago. And what they've done is they've created their own problem because they've forced people, in order to make a living, to train and race horses, they've forced them to go out to cheat, to go against the cheaters that are cheating. And it's a major problem where, what do? You either join them or you get out of the business. And most people got out of the business.
Yeah, and I've said this before. I've been pretty adamant myself. Is I'm in the camp where all I have is a new baby every year. I don't really buy any yearlings. I don't do anything anymore, and I don't wager. And Bob Marks was one of the guys that kind of enlightened me about this years ago. He's like, I don't bet on racing for these reasons. Well, I don't bet on racing since anybody that does harness racing, you've got to really look in the mirror because it's not a level playing field. And from the judges in the stand to the commission to, the follies that are going on, like, how can you bet on the sport? And again, if you're not betting on a sport and you're not attending it, what's the future have in the sport? You know what I mean? It just doesn't have a big future. For all this stuff, it does not have a big future. So these are all parts of, where we're at. So.
Okay, here's my last question for you. You wake up in the morning and you find that you're now the czar of harness racing. What's the first thing you're going to do?
I think like the Elliot Ness movie, it was my favorite thing. I can't remember the name of it, but when they had Capone on they were charging him, and the judge was there, and the jury was there, and they realized that the jury was tainted. What they did is the judge said, go down the hall and get that jury and bring them in here and take all them down there. That's what has to happen. You've got to take every single person out of all the commissions. Like you sweep every single guy in a commission, and they're gone overnight. And then you go to the race secretaries, and you sweep every single one of them, and they're gone. And then you start over. You put people in the commissions that are just regular judges and juries and people that adjudicate to the rules. And then you go to the racing commissions at each individual track, and those guys become independent people that follow a condition book and follow a set of rules. And that's it. It's an instant fix. You've got a better product. You got a better product to wager on. And, I mean, I don't want to get as crass as what they do in Saudi Arabia, but I have friends that go over there, and when they're traveling, they're like, it's the safest place in the world because if you get caught stealing, they cut your hand off. If you murder someone, you get murdered. So, like, you have to have accountability, and I think if I'm the czar, that's what I do. And if you start over, you give horse racing a chance. But on the trajectory it is now, it's just continuing to head down the wrong path. And unfortunately, even with the one-armed bandits, with all these casinos owning the racetracks, they want you to wager on casinos. They don't want you to wager on the racetrack anyway. So eventually, you know, when no one wagers on it, no one watches it, it becomes extinct, and that's the direction we're going.
Well, decoupling's going to be big, and decoupling's around the corner.
No, let's finish on a good note. Okay. Like, it's exciting, man. We do, for those that are still in the game, we do have Harrisburg coming up. Like I said, these Breeders' Crown next couple of weeks. It's always fun. I mean, those are year-end championships, and it's a time to be excited about the sport as much as you can. I have a new baby every year that I get from Stipple Hanover. I don't know how much longer we'll breed, 2, 3, 5, 7 years. I have no idea. But the 2-year-old the yearling that I have is a down by the seaside filly. Real excited about her at the farm. And I sold her to 2 guys, Ray France and Bill Thurston. These guys are now in the game. One of them owned a horse before the other have. They're very, very exciting. And they asked me to stay in for a quarter, which I did. No problem. It's fine. I'm still game with them, but sold the horse to them, and we got new owners in the game, so I continue to do my little part to try to promote the sport, do what I can, and it's exciting for them. I always like to hear, that. And we got yearling sales that have just happened. A guy like Ryan Stahl even reached out to me, asked me if I was interested in buying a couple horses to Buckeye. I politely declined, but it's nice to see guys reaching out. It's nice to see people trying to, continue to grow the sport from the inside the best we can. I'm not going to quit being an ambassador. I'm going to keep doing what I can to keep things going. And sometimes I hope these words of wisdom that we say, some people in the right positions finally roll over and say, yeah, we do got to make some changes and fix things. So that's always the hope. But, I plan on bringing back Charlie May at age 8 next year for some racing. And next year the Breeders' Crown is at Scioto Downs. So it would be a dream if we could get him healthy and still competing at that level to be in the race next year. Win, lose, or draw, it'd be fun to be able to race in his home track in a Breeders' Crown next year. So lots of excitement, Freddie.
Don, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. This week's Harness Racing Alumni Show is brought to you by Hunterton Farm, selling their consignments at the Harrisburg sale November 3rd through the 7th. For more information, visit huntertonfarm.com. The Meadowlands Racetrack, visit playmeadowlands.com. Also, we are looking for sponsors for the upcoming October release of the Bill O'Donnell Tribute. Sponsorships available. Visit ustrots.com. That's a wrap for this week's show. Thanks for listening, and please join us again next week.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show.